Well, hi, kids. I am so excited to get to see you today and to continue talking with you about our Spy Kids series. We are learning about Daniel and his friends and how they were kind of spies in a foreign land. And I have my friend Boynton here. Now, Boynton, you're in a fire helmet today. Oh, that's right. Oh, I get it. Okay, so Boynton's look, he even has his spy stuff on from last week. His costume today is a fire helmet because we are talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and how they were thrown into the fiery furnace because they wouldn't bow down to a false god. And we heard the first part of their story last week. This week, we're going to hear the end of the story. That's right. And it's a really good ending. Yes, that is exactly right, Boynton. So remember, let's say this time when you hear me say Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you can either stand up or sit down, raise your hand or put it down. But let's listen to our story together. Are you ready? Okay, Boynton's ready for our story. Well, in today's Bible story, we will pick up where we left off in the book of Daniel, chapter 3. Last time we left off, King Nebuchadnezzar decided he was going to build a 90-foot gold statue and force everybody to worship it. He ordered everyone in the kingdom to bow down and worship when the trumpets blasted, and he declared that if you didn't do it, you would be thrown into the furnace of fire. Well, the time came, the trumpets blew, and everyone in the kingdom bowed down and worshiped the statue. Well, almost everyone, right? There were 3 people who chose not to bow down and worship the statue: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They chose not to bow down to the idol. They knew that God only wants us to worship God. They chose to please God instead of pleasing the king. And do you know what happened? Yep, they got thrown into the furnace. When the king heard that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow down, he was furious. He said to them, "Don't you realize what's going to happen to you?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego responded, "Even if God does not save us, we will not bow." They were willing to sacrifice themselves rather than bow down to a false god. Well, furious, the king ordered, "Throw them in the blazing furnace." And that is exactly what happened. The soldiers threw them into the fire, and it was so hot. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were now in the fire. The king watched the fire burn and burn. But then something happened. One of the king's officials said, "Hey, didn't we throw 3 men in the fire? 3 men?" I'm looking at the furnace, and there are not 3 men in there, but 4 men. They're walking around in there like there's nothing wrong. The 4th one looks just like the Son of God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were allowed to exit the furnace. They survived. They didn't get burned. They didn't even smell like smoke. The king dressed them then in robes and made them royal officials. God had come through for them because they decided to live for God's approval instead of humans' approval. And today in our lesson, we're going to hear more about that and talk more about how we can live for God's approval rather than other people's approval, because that's what's really important, right? Yeah. Hey, Boynton, it has been so good to have you telling our stories. Let's take a real quick look at the real Boynton. Here he is. This is the last lesson in our Spy Kids series. And so Boynton is going to say farewell, and maybe you got to come back sometime. Would you like to do that? Okay. All right. Well, bye-bye, kids. Boynton says we're going to set him over here while we keep learning more about our story. Well, you know, in Psalm 23:4, it says, "I will not be afraid. You are close behind me." And, you know, sometimes that person might be your mom or your dad or your teacher or your friend. But we know that God is always close behind us. maybe pulling us along sometimes even. So we have nothing to fear because God is with us. And likewise, it is good to know that God is in control. Sometimes we think we're in control. Sometimes we think other people are in control. But the truth of the matter is, or the matter of fact, is that God is in control of all of this. And so it's important to remember that and know that God will be with you and that God is bigger than the fire. You know, sometimes there are things that happen in our life that we think are the worst thing ever. Yeah, things that might make us sad or angry or embarrassed, maybe even. But the truth of the matter is, God is bigger than all of those things that are the fire, the kind of hard things in life. God is bigger than all of that. And as we continue to worship God and trust in God, we will figure it out that God has a plan for us. God's plan is much better than any plan we could ever imagine for ourselves and for others. And so we just have to remember to be patient and to wait and to remember that just like God was in that furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God is with us as well. We are never alone in the fires of our life. And you know, sometimes God will come and let us know that, maybe through a dream or a feeling that we have that God is with us, or maybe a whisper that you hear in your ear and no one's around. That's kind of how God, or even when you read scripture, right? Sometimes you'll read scripture and you'll be like, oh, I know God is with me. But sometimes God sends people to us, maybe a counselor or another adult or a friend or parents even too, can come and help us know that whatever fire or problems we're having, we are not alone. God is with us. And I think that is a great reminder and something that all of us, even the big people in our lives, need to remember, that God is always with us and will bring us out of any trouble that we are having. I hope that you feel God's presence with you this week. I hope that you have a wonderful last week of school. I know so many of you have worked so hard, and the teachers out there, you have worked hard, and the parents out there, you have worked double hard to get through this very unique school year. And so enjoy this last week, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.